Bed. Love.
Bed.
Bed.
Love. Beyond.
Bed, love, beyond. Bed, love, beyond. Welcome to Bed, Love, Beyond, the podcast for the hopeful and the hater, and us to discuss sex, love, relationships, and whatever's clever with like-minded people like you who are also in limbo with love like us. I'm Jennifer, and I'm here with
Miss April Speaks. Hey, guys.
Hey, sorry about our sound situation. We're working on it. We're not techie people, but we're working on it. So what's going on, April?
Not much. Just the usual.
Guys, me and April went to a Sex Expo. And we waited in line with a bunch of freaks. No. So we did go to the Sex Expo in Brooklyn last weekend. I've never been to a Sex Expo before. Was that your first one?
Yep.
So you walked in and it was kind of just like dicks everywhere. Some lady was like outside and she was like, take a picture with me and this dick on a chainsaw. I don't know what that was. It was like a giant dildo on a chainsaw, and she's like, take a picture. And like,
might have been a leaf blower.
What? I don't know what it was,
but because she like stuck it on there.
Right.
Yeah. But
then April brought up like a really good point. She's like, yeah, we put this like on social media, and then like next thing you know, your like job calls you up. I'm like, hey, heard you like taking picture with dicks. Mm-hmm. People were like taking pictures with all different size dildos there. It was a lot of sex toys.
Expensive sex toys.
To
me, $150 is expensive.
Right.
I mean,
God gave you fingers, make them work.
Mm-hmm.
That's my opinion. Sorry. Some of them were expensive. Some of them were really pretty. Some of them were engravable.
Nice cases.
Yeah.
Packaging.
Really, packaging was intriguing. I don't know if you opened that free bag of stuff that we got, but there's like
still in the floor of my car.
Cum juice in it. Which
really?
I guess is lubricant.
Yeah, probably it probably gets warm or something.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
When she's like, I'm not touching that.
It's not real cum, is she?
And then like there was like little rubber dicks in there. I was like, oh, I'm just gonna stick these around that house.
I thought it was cool that it was somewhere. I mean, I guess that's the Brooklyn atmosphere and culture, but it was everybody from seemed like all kind of walks of life and
yeah.
There's kind of strange hairdos and outfits, and everybody kind of just being themselves there. So that was cool.
Yeah, they had a lot of like different panels. We didn't really get to go to any of them. It was a free event if you got tickets ahead of time, so it was absolutely packed, like shoulder to shoulder. A lot of stuff you couldn't even really see because, like, you know, it was just a constant like moving thing, kind of just like shuffled in and out of the rows to see what there was. I guess there's a lot more technology with sex toys, and I know like some of the bigger ones, like I think they have one at like the Javits Center. I didn't see any dolls.
No, that's true. No sex dolls.
No.
Interesting. Sure it didn't.
Penis pumps, anal thingies.
They did have the closest thing they came to. They had like the vagina model, like you could buy the vagina. Remember we saw that?
Yeah.
You could buy like a vagina.
Yeah.
Like I guess
Take
that
it
would
with you.
be on the doll.
Right. Then there was like these, I don't know what, there was a lot of those different things, like the dildos that the women were just like sitting on, or the vibrating things.
Yeah, it was almost like a little horsey.
Yeah.
that you can crank up.
There was like some Asian who was like posing on a bed with a webcam. I was like, what is going on here?
Yeah. Chatterbait. Chasterbait. Something like that. It was cool.
They had that one blanket that was like, if you have sex a lot so you don't get your sheets dirty. I'm like, these people think of everything.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to do laundry. Here's a liquid absorbing blanket.
Just throw that on there.
Like, how much are you coming? I don't know. Like, I have so
what
many.
What are y'all doing?
My biggest question of the day was like, why the fuck were there puppies there?
Right.
I told somebody, I was like, did I tell you there was puppies at the Sex Expo? They're like, what?
Little cute Shih Tzu.
I was like, yeah. They're like, why? I was like, and then the text came out wrong, but I was like, $5 to cuddle with a group and $10 to cuddle alone. She's like, what? I was like, yeah, I don't know. It was just interesting. I don't know why they were there. I think it was just to make money and bring awareness that you can adopt pets. But I looked up the Millennial podcast to see if we can like link up with those girls. I emailed them. The girl had a book for sale. It was like 101 Ugly Penises. April did not read the cover of the book and just opened it.
I'm like, oh.
And they were really ugly penises. But I was just like, our book will definitely sell. If you guys can sell a book,
right?
If you guys can sell a book of 100,
put it together. Pictures is expensive in books, I'm told.
101 pictures,
especially
of penises.
color ones. So,
yeah, they probably did that.
It wasn't like it was black and white.
No,
it was in living color.
But we didn't buy anything. I didn't buy anything. April didn't buy anything.
It was an interesting experience, though.
Yeah, it was definitely one of those things. You like came, you saw, you conquered. And you go somewhere, eat delicious tacos, and yay, it's Brooklyn.
Yep.
But today we are here and we're talking about, it's episode 131. Damn, we're getting up there. The podcast politics and going ghost, but not St. Patrick. Nice. So first things first, April sends me this link yesterday. Just privately sends it to me. No, she tagged me in it. And then she texts me. If she tags me in something, then text me. I know it's important. She's like, I tagged you in this link. Check it out. We should talk about it. And the 2 chicks from the guys we fucked, which I know you guys have heard about before. Martini would rave about them all the time. I still don't really listen and or follow their podcast, but they put up an article. Somebody put up an article about them.
Blavity.
Yes, thank you. About a podcast they did. I think they did it a while ago, right?
It was from 4 years ago.
Okay.
I was looking through the article trying to figure out how that was picked out of
from now.
Yeah, like how that came about, but I couldn't find it. I only saw 2 articles on it and I couldn't find why.
If you go on Instagram, there's a lot about it, what we're about to explain. So basically the title, do you have the title of the article up or no?
No, but I can get it.
Okay. So, the title of the article.
It's coming, it's coming, it's coming. That ain't it.
She's like, it's not that one.
It's called No Becky, Not Okay. The layers of problematic in this conversation are sickening. That's like the caption. And then white sex podcast hosts discuss search for a real black guy, this is in quotes, who is like thug, quotes, to have sex with. And it's a picture of the ladies with lollipops.
So we put the post up on our Facebook page and I sent it out to Martini and I sent it out to some other people to kind of get their take on it. So I'll first, I guess, tell you what their take is. I know that superfan Sam immediately commented and she was like, oh my God, doesn't Martini love them? What did he say? And I was like, I did send it to him, but I didn't tell her what he said because I was saving it for now. Basically, he said, this is dumb. Black women fetishize. Why can't I say that today?
It's a weird word.
Fetishize. I think the way he typed it wrong too, and it's messing me up. Black men too, when they say you ain't a man or I want a real man, they usually mean black man. I'm sure I'm not black enough or woke enough for a lot of black chicks out there to pot calling the kettle black, pun intended. They better stop coming after my chicks and they need to look in their own mirror. Those same black chicks who are hooping and hollering about who they would rather date Ghost from Power than they would rather date Ghost from Power than Childish Gambino. Fucking broads. Thanks. You should have a podcast on that. It's fetishizing. Is fetishizing wrong or whatever? You can quote me too. They don't want this smoke. I was like, okay, sorry. And he said he was just saying. And then he like went on to explain about how like in YouTube videos, black chicks question Donald Glover's blackness because he has a white wife / baby's mother and asking if he could be pro-black and still date outside her race.
Which is different from this article.
It's
a completely different... It's somebody I'm guessing it was because of the This Is America video but what they call Black Twitter, this is not my name, this is just what it's called, Black Twitter, and a lot of black women apparently who pretty much run Black Twitter were sharing the video. But that obviously doesn't fit the narrative here.
Right.
It's easier to focus on the 2 comments you saw that said, "Oh, should Donald Glover be talking about black issues if he's married to a white woman?" But that doesn't fit the narrative.
I talk about black issues, but not because I date a black guy, but because I think they're important.
But it doesn't fit the narrative that the black women of black Twitter were sharing the video all over the place.
Right.
So you gotta tell both sides of it. You can't just be one sided. I mean, it's two different things. Whether or not you pro black and whether or not like you're not a real black man unless you're a thug is two completely different things.
So he goes on to say that he's like, I'm not saying they weren't wrong. Yeah, it's offensive, I guess, but black chicks do it too. That's all I'm saying. You can't say it's an opinion preference for one stereotype for another just because one is the same race. And I explained to him I don't think I ever heard a black chick be like, damn, I want to date a real white boy who surfs and whatnot and has a tractor. Like, that's just insane. He said that would be funny. No, I'm not saying black chicks do it with black, but no, I'm saying black chicks do it with black men. They want all that black guy because he has swag, has power, big dick, all stereotypes. All of that can be attained by an Italian, Jew, Indian, African. He does not have to be black to have it. If a person wants a black guy, go right ahead. But to include those attributes, they're not doing anything different from Corrine and Christina, which are the girls' names who run that podcast.
But if you're saying a black woman says she wants a black guy with swag, how is that fetishizing him? Mm-hmm. And how is that not different?
It's like, wrong.
Saying you want a man that has swag, whatever. The man you want happens to be black.
Right.
But those are your preferences. You're stating your preferences. She's saying you're not real black unless you're a thugged out, a big, tall, black thugged out guy that's on the street corner. Like, that's I just don't understand.
And I think
it's just not logical. It's not logical what he's saying.
Another person I sent the article to, who was also black, said, seems kind of like a reach to be mad because she likes guys with a thuggier edge. And I was like, well, how would you feel if you told you weren't a real black guy because you weren't thug or hood enough? He goes, what makes you think I haven't? And what makes you think I haven't by black women? Black women don't have some magic lock on what people should be outraged over. I think it's dumb and ignorant, but it's not something that's unique to some podcast girls. And I explained that I felt that they were being super
Nobody said it was unique to them.
Objectifying and telling someone that they aren't really who they are because they don't fit some stereotype. It's pretty shitty. And I was like, I was inquiring more on how the commentary made you feel. He's like, I'm indifferent. There's worse institutional racism that I face on a daily basis than some girl not wanting to fuck me because I'm not hood enough. So basically he goes on to say that
it's still racism though.
Right. He said he's like, being a thug or ghetto are realities that aren't exclusive to black men. The question I would ask is, are those qualities you also like in Spanish, white, or Asian men? If it's just black men, then you've got a pretty poor view of black people, which I agree with. Which
is the point of asking.
Which is the point of the question.
Right.
So you do agree.
If you wasn't so busy trying to be indifferent,
right,
you would see that you're making the point. That's what we asking you.
Right.
Well, how does it make you feel? Like, is it fucked up? Do you not care? You saying you indifferent, but then you saying, well, that's a poor view of I face other racism that's worse. Or
being white and dating black men, I've had this conversation before with my friends. Mm-hmm. Like, I've had this conversation before with my roommate. Like, mm-hmm. Oh, you date black guys, but you don't really date, like, hood black guys. And I'm like, okay. Mm-hmm. Like, he's like, and I'm just like, no, I don't really know. Like, no, I don't date people who, like, walk around with their pants hanging off their ass necessarily or, whatever. But, I mean, if you've ever saw my brother when he was 16, he was walking around with his pants off his ass, too. So, mm-hmm. I don't think that's stereotypical.
But he wouldn't have been called hood.
No.
Because he lives in Ringwood and he's white.
He was called a wigger before, but, mm-hmm. I mean, that's a whole different conversation.
Right.
But, I mean, I was, like, thinking about it. And, like, one, I feel like it's definitely objectifying men, like, and to be told that you're not something, that's mm-hmm. like someone came up to me and be like, oh, you're not Italian because your family's not in the mafia and you don't have a vowel at the end of your name.
Exactly.
But, like,
it's exactly the same thing.
I'm pretty sure I am Italian. Mm-hmm. But no, my dad's not in waste management, and
if your dad is saying sort of like, let's say your dad's sitting there kind of talking like insider, right, Italian stuff, right? And And I sit there and say, well, you wouldn't be a real Italian if you didn't know that.
Right.
And it's just like, I wouldn't. Like, right. I'm still not an Italian man. If I didn't know these things, I wouldn't be a real Italian. Or if your mom said, you know, like, your dad is the kind of Italian guy I like. Like, he knows what's going on in the neighborhood. Right. He knows about, you know, and I'm like, well, so if I sit here and say it, then, well, your mother said it. It's a different story that your mother's saying.
This is the part. This is the part of the conversation, like, because I was talking about it with Kathy a little bit today, who's been on the show before, and she was like, you know, we'll have conversations, and they'll be like, oh, well, you guys are white, and then we'll be like, but we're not that kind of white. Mm-hmm. But you know, I've also had conversations in my relationship, like when I've dated other people, where they've been like, oh, you're a white girl, you must do this, this, and that. White girls are freaks. Mm-hmm. Who the fuck told you that?
Right.
You know, but like they never told me that I wasn't a real white girl because like I didn't suck dick or whatever the case may be.
Right.
Which is kind of like the problematic thing. And I think as people, I know we have these conversations like amongst our friends, possibly about what you think of a certain culture or group, or, you know, like, oh, I heard Jamaican men got big penises or whatever the case may be. Mm-hmm. But telling somebody that they're not their race or their culture is like, it's completely different. And I think as in general, we have to stop doing all of that. I mean, I think the conversations you have in the privacy of your own house or the conversations you have. Mm-hmm. But like these women, I feel like they're on a podcast and it's a very popular podcast. I'm pretty sure they have like triple the downloads that we have, and congrats to them. But I feel like you have a voice and you're saying something, and like,
and you should be using your platform to kind of not be divisive and racist.
Right. Mm-hmm. And that's just, I can understand why people are upset. Like, that's not a cool thing to say. Like,
and it's not just black women that's upset. I saw comments under the article posted somewhere else, and we saw it under the Instagram that white women were upset about it too. I don't know if these, I guess one was married to a black man, or maybe they date black men, or they got black children, or whatever the case is. But Sam's comment, Sam said, I agree with the article. I find it, Sam's white if I'm not mistaken.
No, she is. She was married to a Jamaican guy, so I feel like she has like some.
She said, I agree with the article. I find it so bizarre that race comes into sex. When I was with my ex, everyone asked if the rumors were true. Like, would you ask me casually how big my white boyfriend's penis is? It's kind of ridiculous. You can have a preference of what you are attracted to, but to characterize a whole group of people based on your racial concepts is pretty fucked up.
I just hated the part where she was like, well, the first black guy didn't count.
And I just don't understand.
Why are we counting black men, first of all?
Right. And why didn't it count? Because
like, I guess that's the basis of their podcast, i.e. the guys we fucked. But right. But like,
why didn't it count? Because he wasn't because what characterizes a thug? Do you just see him with like Tim's and a do-rag on? Like, how do you know? Is he in a gang? Like, what? Like, is he literally a thug, or does he just look like one?
So would Daniel from Insecure be a thug? Because I don't think that he is.
But he's just not buttoned up like Lawrence,
right? Because he has like a deep voice and like swag, or like right. He's into the hip hop culture. Like, I don't know, like, because like her definition of it was like, oh, he's tall like a basketball player, and.
But I look at Lawrence and I see swag.
Yeah, hell yeah.
I mean, but Lawrence is like an IT guy, app developer, whatever the hell he do. But I think Lawrence is sexy as hell. Like, I mean, I think this generalization, like, I just don't see how you can put. I just think it's misguided anger toward black women when you say black women do it too. Right. Black women stereotype black men too. How is saying I want a man that has, like, dating black men is already her preference. She's not fetishizing them. That's her preference.
Right.
So you're saying I want a black man and I want one with swag and a big dick. Okay, that might be something a white woman says about a white man.
Or maybe you do like guys who are like a little bit more rough around the edge. Like, you don't like guys who are like laid back or whatever.
But a white woman might say the same thing about a white guy. I want a white guy that's got a little swag and a big dick. Like, would that be her stereotyping white guys?
No.
Like, I mean, I just don't get how the two are connected. I just don't get it. I don't see the connection between a black woman saying I want a black man and by black she means my same color as me, identify as of African ancestry. Like, I don't understand. I don't think she's meaning, oh, he got to be black from the street with throwing up gang signs. That's not like, I just don't get how the two are connected. I don't get how that went all the way around that circle and came back, and really I don't get the line wrong, I guess, offensive, I guess. If you like, something about that says to me that you deep down inside, you know it's offensive and you just don't want to say. Because, you know what I mean? Like, wrong, I guess, offensive, I guess. It's like somewhere in there you know it's wrong. And you want to be opposite. And
yeah, I mean,
it sounds foolish. But like I said, it's not just, you know, you want to go on a tirade against black women, but it's not just black women that found it offensive. White women did too. And we just using these two races because that's who's involved. These two races is involved.
Another podcast had kind of weighed in on it. They said back in the 90s, ladies used to say they need or want a roughneck. And there are tons of videos of female R&B artists curving some corny black dude for some dude in a white tank top, creased jeans, sweatpants, and some Reebok classics. So when these women say really black, they were socialized by those same images as well. They want a masculine, domineering man that doesn't take shit and can take control. That's an accurate and articulate way to say what you like and want. But this echoes back to some old big black buck on the plantation shit. Some farmer's virginal daughter being ravaged by the savage beast type shit. And regardless of what your favorite porn genre says, you BBC hounds, LOL, there's a whole ass divine creature attached to that melanated skin you're lusting after. The 6'4" frame has hopes and dreams beyond a game of round ball, and we, the BBM community, would appreciate if you did not diminish us by just being a thing you experienced in college or something I always wanted to try. If you really want to fuck with us on a higher level than just sport and ego fucking. Also, since I'm doing this, shout out to all the fetishized Asian, Latinos, and Latina folk who have just been used to fulfill some ego freak fantasies.
But it's like saying if you see a tall, handsome, whatever black guy walking down Wall Street in a suit, you don't think he gonna put it on you? Why not?
Right.
And that's, you know what I mean? Like, what how come? Because he got a suit on?
I do agree with that, what they just said. Like, it was really, like, back then, people, the whole I want a roughneck thing. Like, and that is a better way of saying what they wanted to say than saying he wasn't really black. And that I think is the biggest problem. Like, maybe they're not racist. Like, I don't know them. You don't know them. Who the fuck knows? But I think like the verbiage comes off and is very racist.
I think you can be racist and not realize it.
Right.
Yeah, I think you can be racist and say racist thing and don't even realize it because you've been saying it your whole life and you don't know and nobody ever called you out on it.
Like, oh wait, that's racist. Like, yes, Lacey. The lady said it is.
Yeah.
So.
And I can understand too if you say, but it comes to a point in your life where like black people and people of other races saw certain images of white people on TV too. Does that mean I approach you with that image and treated you like the image I saw on TV? It's like somewhere in your life, I can understand if you're a teenager and you influenced by these images, but somewhere in your life, you have to get to the point where you're not ignorant enough to think that the only image of a black man you saw is on TV.
Right.
Like somewhere, like at what age is are you expected to understand that what you see in music videos, the rapper you see in music videos is not the person he is when he leave off the video set? You know, like there's plenty of rappers in videos and doing locks to being gangster or whatever in the video. Meanwhile, their child is at Harvard. Right. You know what I mean? Like they live in the suburbs. So it's like at some point you have to realize what you're seeing on TV is just that. It's TV. Whether it's a rap video or a rock video or whatever. Like, you know, at what age is it appropriate that you realize the images you see on TV are just images?
There was definitely a better way to convey what they were trying to say. And I didn't like the fact that they were so dismissive about it. Like, oh, I know we're going to get letters about this.
Which means you know what you said is ignorant.
Right.
Which means, that's when they took responsibility for the ignorance. When I know what we saying ignorant, I know people gonna have something to say, and I don't care.
Like, oh, they said like, oh, what does a real black man like look like or sound like or whatever the case they said.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the printer's going off, and I'm just like, then you know what you said was wrong because you're waiting for the backlash. Right. Sorry, it took 4 years to get here, but
sooner or later, shit catches up to you.
Right.
And whether you said it 10 years ago, it might catch up with you. I mean, like I said, it was 4 years ago. At first I thought of an episode on it, but then I said, we don't need to spend a crazy amount of time on this. But I did write down my response to it. I wanted to condense it, so I wrote it out so I wouldn't forget anything or try not to be repetitive or whatever the case is. But I did want to say, like, I saw tweets or responses, or I don't know where they got these answers from, that they did say that they know it's wrong. Mm-hmm. And they knew the weight of what they said after they said it. And that they knew it was wrong and they apologized for saying it. My only issue with that is that the apology only came after you were exposed. Right. The apology could have came after you heard it and realized you was wrong. Right. You could have said, back on episode 140, we listened back to that and that wasn't the right way to that sounded really awful and offensive. And if a black man was on a podcast objectifying a white woman like that, I mean, it might get ignored, it might not. Mm-hmm. I mean, but if a white woman chose to say something, I would understand. Like, if a black man was on a podcast saying like, this white woman came and did this and she was white and she was a real white woman because she did this, and a white woman was like, yo, that's fucked up to talk about, like, I'm white, I didn't like it, it made me uncomfortable.
I don't like being called snowflake. Right. I just don't like. Right. I dated someone who was like, I'm out with snowflake. I was like, excuse me.
Right. So if you were to listen to that and said, I found this really offensive, listen to it, and then I would listen to it and like, yeah, I see why you would find that offensive. Like, you know what I mean? So, so they could have, went back and said something after they claim they realized the weight of what they said. So the article by Blavity was written by black women, and like I said before, there were many black women who dismissed the issue and kind of shrugged it off and was like, that's white women being white. But there was also many white women who found this offensive, and what really stood out to me was, if white people found it offensive, and as a black person, especially as a black man, you have a problem somewhere. Right. You have a problem somewhere. So that's one thing. Another point I wanted to make: fetish and fantasy are two different things. Mm-hmm. Black women, white women, everybody had fantasies about somebody, and I would have understood if she said, I have a fantasy, I watched porn, I saw this image or that image or this black man, or I thought this black man was sexy, I saw a man that looked like him, I wanted to have sex with him. I've never been with a black man before. I've been fantasizing about it. I wanted to try it. Right. I would completely understand that sentiment. I mean, I fantasize about Jack sometimes. What's his name? Charlie Hunnam. I've never been with a white guy before, and I've said it out loud, and I say it, and you could think it's racist or not, but I've said Charlie Hunnam's my type of white guy. Yeah. I don't date I wouldn't date all kind of white guys. Just like if she see, I don't know, Ghost from Power, and she says, yo, that dude, that's the kind of black guy I want to have sex with, I would understand. You know what I mean?
Not that fake black guy.
Right. Like, yeah, you don't have to, you see Terry Crews, that's the kind of black, he got muscles, he big, he chocolate, that's the kind of black guy. I wouldn't take offense to that. I'm like, okay, Terry Crews is what turns you on. It could have been said that way, but it wasn't. And I don't see how straight black women can be accused of fetishizing black dick that they're already getting. You fetishize something that you obsessing over an object, almost like something that's not familiar to you or that you're not familiar with. It's a fetish because you do it sometimes and you enjoy it. You relish in enjoying this fetish sometimes. But why would black women be fetishizing black dick that they already get? Like, that doesn't make any sense. they're fetishizing over it because they never had it before.
Right.
I've had it since I was 18 years old. What do I need to fetishize for? I'm almost 35. Like, you know, like that. It's not. That doesn't make sense. So that's fine. That's another point I wanted to make. And like, and I had also wrote down the same thing as Sam. She generalized the character of an entire group of people based on the color of their skin. Mm-hmm. That's racism.
Right.
There's no way up, down, around, left, right, around it. You might not be racist, but you're saying racist shit.
Right.
And I don't know.
Own it.
Yeah. If you're not racist, don't say racist stuff. Like, that's a good step for you. Don't say racist stuff if you're racist. Especially when you say, I know I'm going to get backlash for this.
Right.
You know you saying something racist. So, anyway, here's my other take. To say black women do it too is a lazy way of placing the blame on black women. Yes, sometimes young black girls may seek out a bad boy or a thugged out boy or a boy that's rough around the edges that hangs out in the street, and so do young girls of other races and ethnicities.
That's true.
That going through a bad boy phase. I'm using air quotes. They may think that that's the real thing that at their age. Have you ever thought about family dynamics? What these young girls grew up seeing in their household, what they think is a symbol of strength or of a protector. You might be talking to a young black girl who grew up watching her mother in the household doing everything by herself. So her idea of a strong black man or a real black man may be distorted. Or do you ever think that black people who don't deny their race and culture and decide to go out there and face the racism in the world every day may just want to know she has a dude by her side that can face it with her and understand her? Here's where I make a distinction between young black girl and black woman, because a black woman knows that a real black man is not a thug. A black woman knows that all black men who portray the stereotypical image of a bad boy or thug is not necessarily a dude that's going to put it down in the bed. So maybe black women don't see Donald Glover as the strong protective type, who, by the way, plays up to the stereotype of the nerdy black guy that always gets his ass beat on Atlanta. But maybe he doesn't see black women as his ideal either, which may be why he chose to marry a white woman. But black women were sharing and tweeting his This Is America video. But of course, that doesn't fit your woe is me, self-hating, victimized by the black woman narrative. Now, while I don't agree that his level of awareness about black social issues in a community should be determined by who he's married to, I do think that men who only place value on white women can't comment on a black woman's heart. The same generalization you're making about black women is the same one you claim they are making about you. But you don't know any black women because you're still hung up on the young black girls that rejected you in high school. Have you ever thought that black women's problem in relation to Donald Glover may not solely be about him, but about the fact that a good amount of black women who end up making it and become rich, marry or date very fair-skinned, mixed/exotic or white women, and that agitates a deep-seated issue of colorism in the black community? You blame black women for why you date white women because it's easier than addressing the issues you have with your own blackness. You don't date black women. You don't converse with them. You don't try to understand them, yet you think you know what's in her heart. You are disconnected from the community. You are devoid of a sense of pride and culture, and you have tunnel vision, only seeing what you want to see, dismissing any shred of evidence that may suggest your trauma is self-inflicted and your opinion is flawed. Black people have overcome centuries of loss, African ancestry, enslavement, Supreme Court sanctioned segregation, systematic prejudice, and racism, yet are a group of diverse, accomplished, creative people like any other group in the world. They are black engineers, business owners, doctors, lawyers, politicians, principals, nurses, etc., athletes, men who are married to black women. So where do you get the idea that black women believe a real black man equals a thug? You think black women won't date you because you're not a thug or black enough. No, self-fulfilled prophecy. A black woman won't date you because you just clearly demonstrated that you won't even stand up for her in the face of bigotry. Your character is the reason why she won't date you. You want somebody to commit themselves to you, and nobody will. And it's easier to blame the young black girl that rejected you in high school because you're still that insecure 16-year-old boy. You don't get to tell a black woman that's on the front lines every day with a real job and a real relationship in the real world, paying real bills and dealing with real double standards, what you think they think a real man is. You want to sit and own a hefty opinion of others, yet continue to lack knowledge of self and self-worth. You do nothing but run in circles, standing at the bottom of your last dead-end relationship, telling the same stories of abandonment when deep down inside you know they left because it was never right. And since we're talking about stereotypes, let's not forget the stereotypical grown-ass person that's been living with their parents their whole life, never having ventured outside their comfort zone to step into the arena and fight the battles of life like the rest of us. Black men that have so many problems with black men voicing their opinions need to sit down and talk to their mothers, because that's really who their problem is with. These are your issues. Resolve them and stop taking the easy road and blaming them on women. There's a difference between loving yourself, thereby loving someone else for who they are, not for what they are, and chasing whatever is bright, light, or white because you're running from your blackness. When you disrespect and dishonor black women by calling them fucking broads, when you are complacent when other people do it, you are disrespecting and dishonoring the woman who gave birth to you. And that says a lot more about you than it does anyone else. If you're black, whether you're a man or woman, and you support this type of dangerous rhetoric, you're lost, and your self-worth is sadly non-existent. If you're white and see nothing wrong with this dangerous rhetoric, then you're ignorant and a racist, and that's the person you chose to be. So when you get out of the sunken place and jump into this arena we call life and get battle scars like the rest of us, black, white, and whatever else, then we can talk. Until then, nah.
This is going on Miss April Speaks, right?
Yes, I am gonna post this. But that's my take on all of it. All the comments I see all the time under articles, under the Serena Williams article, it's kind of similar.
Right.
A lot of things I saw said about her, I just don't think it would have been said if it was a white tennis player. Mm-hmm. I honestly don't. And some things I think would have been said even if it was a white tennis player. Just because I think it was because it was sexist.
Right.
Some stuff is not about it, whether it's a white woman or black woman. The shit is sexist. It's because it's a woman in general. So it's some things that was said not because she's black, but because she's a woman. But it's some things, and I saw it get dismissed by black men and dismissed by white men and white women. And, you know, sometimes we got to step back and see some of the things we saying are our own issues.
Right.
It's not even about what we commenting on or what the matter is at hand. It's our own issues, and we're projecting it onto other people, and it's dangerous. It's dangerous to sit on a podcast where you have a lot of followers, possibly young girls who want to be sexual and free, and say something like, real black is a thug.
Right.
It's dangerous, and it's got to be called out.
It's damaging.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one thing that I was thinking about today. Like, it's damaging to tell someone that they're not a real anything based on whatever your ideals are. Like,
or what the general stereotype
or what a general stereotype is.
Because a lot of times stereotypes is wrong.
Right.
And it come from images off television. And how old do you have to be to know that? You know, like you can't be stuck in, you can't let things go because of what's happened to you. It's got to be what's really happening. Mm-hmm. And like I said, it's a lot of people out here talking and they're not on the front lines like the rest of us, and they denying who they are, and they over somewhere else with all these opinions, and you're not living it. Because I'll go out there and say I'm black loud and proud. What you got for me? But I'm black, but you know, I don't see color, and all these people with this nonsense about not seeing color, and men don't think I'm black, or I ain't ghetto, or black women don't think I'm black. That's ridiculous, and it has nothing to do with this, and that's your own shit. Because it shouldn't matter what somebody else see you as. Who do you think you are? Right. And if you don't know, she not gonna know either. If a black woman come up to you, if you're a black man and a black woman come up to you and say you're not black, or you're not black enough, you should be able to counter that argument. Mm-hmm. And you should be able to put her in her place and say, let me tell you something. Like, I'm a black man. You should be able to stand in who you are and correct her. Right. But if you can't, then your ass don't know who you are either. Maybe you're not black. Maybe you ain't black enough. If you can't, if you can't stand in it and you still angry about it, and maybe you're not.
I just think at a time where everything is like coming at you, trying to divide you, the last thing, I mean, granted it happened 4 years ago, but I hope at least here we could do more of like bringing shit together than apart, as opposed to like pulling people apart and putting people down based on some stereotypical shit. Like,
and it's still relevant. It's 4 years ago,
right? But
it's still inflammatory,
right?
Yeah, it's still inflammatory.
So,
and it's like you can't. My anger comes from you can't straddle the fence. Mm-hmm. Some stuff it's either you on the right side or you on the other side. The other side might be wrong, but it ain't right either. Sometimes, so you can't always straddle the fence. Some things you gotta I guess a little bit. It might be wrong. It's all right, but it's not that bad. Listen, some stuff is just wrong.
Right.
You know, like it's not being sensationalized. It's not being exaggerated. It's just wrong.
Like I thought about it. I was just like, yo, if somebody told my boyfriend that he wasn't black because
he get up and go to work every day.
Because he goes to work or because, you know, whatever. I mean, because he's a little nerdy. I don't know. I'd be like, pretty sure he's black. Pretty sure.
And he knows he's black when he get pulled over by the goddamn police. If you don't know, you'll know then.
And I was just thinking about like I think I've known for like as long as I known that there's a very good possibility that my child, whether it is adopted or made in a petri dish, that it's not going to be white. Right. I kind of knew that all along. Mm-hmm. But if someone told my kid that they're not black or they're not like that, what?
Right.
Just because
like, you're black, but you're not black because your mom's white and
right.
You live in, you know, a nice neighborhood. So you go to a nice school, so you're not black. Right. Mm-hmm.
Like that, that's damaging. That's really, really damaging. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I mean, if you don't want to be outraged, don't be outraged. But like April said, like there might be a problem elsewhere. I mean,
especially when you try to deter from it, it's the same thing racists do.
Right.
You're doing the same thing racist white people do. When you're trying to put it to somebody else or blame it on another group of people, it's the same thing as a racist person saying, saying something racist and saying, but I have a black friend. Hey, what are you going to say? Oh, okay, then you're not racist. It's fine. You can say that.
Hey, Jack, remember when we had sex? It didn't count because you're not a real black. Okay? Cool.
Right. Well, what you said is not racist because I heard a black person say it 2 weeks ago.
Right.
So it's not racist because that one black person I heard say it said it. So it's got to be okay for you to say it too, being that you're white. Like, you gotta come back to reality here. You really got to be realistic here. And I think that I'm not saying black people don't stereotype each other. But I'm not saying black people don't stereotype each other and that's wrong, because it is wrong. Somebody that's black and go to Comic-Con and do these things, which to me is a back in the day thing. Black people are accepting that there's diverse black people. Everybody's not the same. Everybody's not uniform. I think black people have come to accept that. And because you choose not to know any, you don't know that. But I think black people have come to accept there's black folks at Comic-Con. There's gonna be black folks all these places. You may not know any that go there, but they're there.
There's white people at the Afropunk Festival.
Right. So it's like I think people have come to accept that now. But if somebody still stuck in 8th grade and you having an issue with that, you have to realize this is not that situation.
I think what the problem is that maybe black people, and I'm assuming that black people who have been into those things have been told that they're not really black for so long that they start to believe it. Because
those things were filled with white people.
Right.
At some point.
White people do that.
Right.
And the funny thing is, like, I think it was definitely my ex who used to call me Snowflake. Like, he used to be like, oh, I know that's some white boy shit. I'm like, why? Like,
right.
Just because you like a Nirvana song or something, like, that's not necessarily some white boy shit. Like, you're just eclectic.
Right.
You're willing to reach outside of the stereotypical box that, you know, other people may have put you in. Like, that's not.
And people got to realize too, if you told somebody I go to Comic-Con and you might be talking to somebody that grew up in a primarily neighborhood with minorities and you didn't. So you were exposed. I grew up in Hackensack, New Jersey. Hackensack, New Jersey is very diverse. I had white friends, Filipino friends, Dominican, Puerto Rican, Colombian. I had, Irish, Italian, from all different places. And so I was exposed to different things. Everybody doesn't grow up in diverse neighborhoods.
Right.
Some people grow up in neighborhoods that's all white. So they don't get exposed to certain things. Or some people, just like some people grow up in neighborhoods that's all black. So, or some people grow up a certain socioeconomic level. You're not going to be exposed. You may not be exposed to certain things. Some people's parents go out of their way to expose them to certain things because they don't want them to feel like all you know is this neighborhood or this town or these activities. But if you look at things like skiing and snowboarding, it's very expensive. You have to have a certain, you have to be at a certain socioeconomic level to say, oh, we go up to Vermont every winter and rent a house. Or we go, like, that's not something poor people can do.
White or black.
Right. Or, It's something that's not said poor, like your socioeconomic level. There's some white people that might never been skiing because they couldn't afford it. So it's like if somebody says to you, you got to try to put yourself in that person's shoes. If somebody says to you, oh, that's white, well, maybe they went to high school with all black people and nobody heard Nirvana in their house.
Right.
So they are going to say, but the point is you hanging out with a white person. Part of the point, besides you just liking them for who they are and their personality, maybe you will say to them, what are you listening to?
Right.
I've never heard that. Oh, that's kind of hot. You know what I mean? Like maybe this is their opportunity for that. But you can't just dismiss your whole community because a few black people told you do white people shit. because some things are white people shit because it's a socioeconomic level to do it. And a lot of times in a lot of areas, white people is the only people at that level. Yeah, there might be black spring. Is it Aspen, Colorado? I'm sure it's not diverse. Like, it is what it is. This is the country we live in. What's the other place in Colorado they go? One is Aspen, Vail, maybe.
Yeah.
These places, who are you going to see walking around there?
I can't go to Colorado.
Will Smith and Jada Pinkett, like Chris Rock, like these are the people you see there. Like, so you have to understand people just may not have been exposed to certain things, and we all have to hold ourselves accountable. You could have said to the person, yes, I am black because I listen to Nirvana. Yes, I am black and my family ski. We still black.
Right.
Maybe if we remain friends and my family go to Vermont, I ask your mother if you could go so you could ski. Like, you cannot stay angry at an entire group of people because a few people who didn't live in the neighborhood you live in, who may not have went to a diverse school like you went to, might have been at an ignorant point in their life and told you wasn't black enough because they went by what they know at the time. Like our life experiences are all we know. And at 16, we may not have had much life experience.
Right. So
people respond and act based on the life experiences they know. And as older people, we respond based on our life experiences. So you got to understand, if a 16-year-old or an 18-year-old or a 22-year-old told you that, you have to look back on that and say, you know what? That person was ignorant at the time that black people do listen to rock music. They just never been exposed to it. They don't understand that black folks ski and snowboard. They just never been exposed to somebody who does. That's what. But to continue to hate and project that hate onto a whole group of women because of your own issues and because you are not mature enough to resolve them, and to be, for Sean to say he's indifferent about it because he's experiencing other institutional racism. Racism is racism.
Right.
Yes, there's different levels to it. Yeah, you could have just got stopped or you could got lynched. Like,
right.
Of course, there's different levels to racism. But if you indifferent towards that, then you got to be indifferent towards it when it's your son or your daughter. Like, indifference is dangerous.
I kind of feel like
very dangerous.
I used to babysit for an interracial family in Montclair, like most of my college career for like many years, and I feel like a lot of like my general understanding of, not of race, that makes no sense, but like my general understanding of like white and black people came from like that family because the mom was like so, I guess for her time, like socially forward. Like she understood like the things that her children were gonna like
and the mom
encounter.
was white.
The mom was white. It was black. Yeah. She and like the father was a lawyer. She was a nurse. Montclair's a very affluent town, even though as per Chris Rock, which is a fact, it's like the one place in the country where there's like a high population of black and white people living in harmony. But like everything that I feel like my general understanding of definitely interracial dating and just interracial people being intertwined in general came from that family, because like the mom was like so socially forward at the time. Like she understood that like when her kids grew up, she's like, I don't know if they're gonna identify with the black kids or the white kids or have trouble like identifying who they were. And like she would give them books about like different parts of their culture, both the African American side and I think she was like Irish Italian or something. And like I just listened to her. I didn't judge her or whatever. I listened to her and I really respected her, especially now, for like what she was doing. Like she wasn't saying like, I'm the mom, I'm white, you know.
Or being ignorant to the fact that her kids are physically going to be seen as like perceived as black.
Even my ex's mom, like he was biracial, and she's like, you know, she was white. She's like, you know, as soon as my kids were old enough to go out into the streets, like I explained to them, when you get pulled over by a cop, this is what you have to do. Like I don't care what friends you're out with, you know,
it's because you're brown,
right? You don't look like everyone, so you know, you get pulled over, yes sir, no sir, right? You know, keep your hands on your steering wheel. And you know, you can sit there and say it's not different all you want, but it is different for them. So, and I think like a lot of my perspective was like gained from those moms who actually took the time to like understand that there's a fundamental difference and, you know, explore that with their children. I think it's important. I think as people, I mean, not everyone had that experience as I did, you know, with these people. 'Cause maybe being white, it's easier to digest it from a white person, if that makes sense.
Right.
Like, I mean, I don't have a problem personally, but I just think like being a young person, I was kind of like,
and seeing her, right?
Seeing her, like I was like, oh, okay.
It had an impression on you, because because you, of course, you're gonna identify with her,
right?
If you know what I mean. I mean, it is what it is. Yeah, and I think sometimes I feel like too, which I feel sorry for somebody who feel like they have to be indifferent to it, because that's your way of pretending, pushing it to the side, pushing it down, pushing it away, pretending it doesn't exist so you don't have to deal with it, because it's hurtful and it's painful. Right. And I try to see it that way too. Like it's a hurtful to know that you were born and raised in this country and you have to deal with that. It's a very hurtful situation. So I can see why people blocking it from all edges. I just don't want to deal with it. I don't care. I don't care what they saying. I don't care what I don't even want to talk about it, because you don't feel like you don't want to bring up those emotions. You don't want to get angry about it. You don't want to show any emotion to it. And I get that too, but at some point you have to. At some point you have to. It's there and it's not going away. If it was going away, it'd be going already. It's not. No. So you do have to acknowledge your emotions, and you have to get to a point. You're getting old. You're getting old. The person who made that remark, if you listen to this, your ass getting old, and you have to get to the point where you realize that showing your emotion and being vulnerable does not make you less than a man. It makes you a better man. And men have to realize that showing your emotion, being real with yourself, being real with other people, and being vulnerable and talking about things that hurt and that's painful. I read recently that shame lives because you don't put it in words. Wow, and it festers. Deep. And shame, and that's how shame lives. When you don't put it in words, it just lives inside you and festers there until you speak it. Shame has to be spoken in order for it to go away, in order for you to fight against it. So that's, but like I told you last night, I applaud you because you grew up in Ringwood. Wasn't no tons of black folks or any. You came up out the woods, and you're like, yo, there's another world out here. Like, let me babysit these people. Let me go see what's going on over here. You know what? I'm gonna go to Montclair. It seems like there's some stuff going on around here. Like, let me open my eyes and ears to the world. You could have stayed in the woods.
I would have lived in Newark a little longer if that bitch wasn't so crazy. She wasn't my dog.
Yeah, you freaking moved to Malcolm X Boulevard. Like, I was like,
white meat. I was like, ah!
I'm black and I'm standing like, Jen, you sure? You sure you want to do this? I don't know. You know? So it's like everybody don't, and you get to say something.
I don't think I don't really. I'm like afraid of like things in my head. I don't think I'm like afraid of like reality. I was like telling someone that I walked home from like Rutgers University in Newark to my house once, and the only reason I didn't complete the walk is because I was out of breath.
Right.
But I was like up the hill. What is that road?
Springfield.
Springfield.
Yeah, that's a hill.
I was walking up Springfield, and finally I called my roommate. I'm like, can you get me? I can't breathe.
Right.
She was like, what the fuck were you thinking? I was like, I'm thinking I needed to get home, and I didn't know if you were home yet. My car was in the shop. Like, I was like, and I needed the exercise. She's like, what are you, crazy? I was like, I'm not really afraid of anything. I was like, I don't know. Not that I'm a ninja.
Not when you done grew up in the damn woods with bears and shit coming on your driveway. Monkeys flying around the house. But I mean, you could have stayed in the woods and stayed closed-minded. And not that everybody up there is closed-minded and ignorant, but sometimes that's the case. You don't leave out of your
We have
area.
Up in Ringwood like what they call Jackson Whites, which are like people of some kind of color. But they're mixed and they identify with Native American. Yeah. Right. Some of them claim black, some of them don't. They're all,
and they're considered living on Native American land.
Right. They consider themselves more Native American than anything. But the only black kid who went to my school was George Martin, the football player's son.
I just saw him in the documentary about Lawrence Taylor. He played on the Giants.
Yep.
I watched.
He was the only black kid who went to my school. Only. He was fine too.
George Martin's a good looking man.
Yeah.
He old, but he you could tell he was, yeah.
He's got two sons, George Martin Jr. and then the other kid's name was Ben. Ben was fine. Ben had like light eyes and oof. I wonder what Ben is doing now. He's not on Facebook. Anyway. But the point is, like, we weren't really exposed to many people up there. I mean, and not like when I left, I was like, oh my God, look, it's the Rainbow Coalition. But like, I mean, I don't know, like, some people just
once
stay.
You did venture out into the world, it wasn't like you were stuck in this.
I think a lot of things with race is fear. People fear what they don't know, and instead of trying to get to know it, they just automatically fear it.
Right.
And that's like the part that's aggravating.
It starts at home. Because you didn't have parents like, oh, don't go down there with those
my God. I remember
people.
When I was babysitting for the interracial family and we were in Montclair, which is obviously a very mixed community, this little boy was like, I don't want to play with the black boy. I almost started crying. I was like, who the fuck taught you that? I looked at his mom. I was like, she's like, that's not nice. I was like, bitch, you taught him that. Like,
where he get that from?
He's 5.
It starts at home. I think having the parents you had and your parents just telling you, listen, like,
so hurt. I was like,
be who you want to be, do what not do what you want to do, but your parents didn't stop you by putting all kind of fear in you about other cultures and ethnicities.
I mean, I was friends with a lot of the people from the mine area, that's what they call it, and they'd come to my house. My mom didn't care,
right?
Teaching me the Running Man and shit, like,
right. Looking at your Right On magazines.
Actually.
Man.
And Word Up.
I remember that.
I had pen pals. It's embarrassing. They were in jail. I got in trouble. Long story. But Dad keeps asking me, he's like, what happened to those pen pal letters from those convicts? I was like, Dad, they got so mad at me. Like, no one should have gave me stamps.
Damn. But, like, so you ventured out.
Shout out to Phalo Jimenez doing a bid. Oh God, I wish I had him. The jailhouse poses were so crazy.
That is hilarious. I can't believe you remember the name though.
Me and Kathy still have these conversations because I like brought the box. It was like a Fila box full of like letters from convicts.
Oh my God.
They talk about being in the hole. I didn't watch Oz. Yeah, Oz wasn't even. I had no idea.
That's hilarious.
Then my parents got a hold of him, and it was all downhill from there.
Over. Yeah. Took your TV guides and everything.
Shut up! I missed that. She did take my Vibe magazines. I was like, it wasn't even in Vibe. I was like, damn it.
That's hilarious. But I just feel like a part of it too is just who you are.
Yeah.
If you choose not, some people I just feel like some people are naturally, it's just innate. Some people are just open-minded, people willing to like hang out with anybody, try anything, do not anything, but try new things.
Is that Coke? Let me have some.
Right. Just being willing to try new things and converse with anybody and just being an open-minded person. It starts from inside you. So I think a lot of times too, when you comfortable being hateful and closed-minded and in your little bubble, maybe that's part of who you are. Sometimes it's just part of who you are. When you're comfortable being ignorant and judging people by the color of their skin and what you see on TV, this just might be who you are. And sometimes we got to accept that too.
We've given this an hour. I don't know if you still want to talk about ghosting.
Yeah, we could do it real quick. So in one of the episodes, I don't know how many of you out there watch Insecure, one of the episodes she talks about, she gets ghosted. The guy was like liking her. They had sex on a Ferris wheel, all these things. And then all of a sudden he just stopped calling her. He called the insurance people back.
Yeah.
You got to watch it to know what that means. But he was a passenger in her Lyft. A fight broke out. The insurance company, Lyft, wanted to know something. He called Lyft back. He never called her. It's been a week. She's going crazy. So we decided to talk about ghosting. And is it right? Is it wrong?
So
go ahead.
We've talked about the fact that we're doing a book. This is I had a dream the other night, and I'm gonna put this in the book, but I'll obviously word it nicer. So I had a dream the other night that my current boyfriend, I couldn't find him, and he was on a plane somewhere, or he was somewhere on a plane or in a car, and I tried to call him, and like he wasn't answering, and then like somehow I got a message, and he wasn't gonna tell me where he was gonna be, and I woke up and I was like, what the fuck? And I was like, yo, I am so fucking damaged from so many years of like shitty boyfriends that I have a bad dream, and my bad dream in my brain automatically goes to my boyfriend doing something terrible. At least that's how the psychology in me manifested that conversation. And I was like, yo, ghosting somebody is really, really damaging. Like,
especially at a certain age.
Right.
When you're a certain age, yeah.
I remember being 23. I was dating the 7-year guy for, I don't know, 7 years on and off. But at that time, it was a couple years. He had promised me the world. And he was like, please, let's move out together. His parents had just moved to Florida. And I think he was like having this, like, I don't know where I fit in the world moment. And he was like, let's get an apartment. And I'm going to pay for everything. Don't worry. I'm going to take care of you. And I was like, okay. And I told my mom, I'm like, I'm leaving. And she was like, didn't believe me, I guess. But she believed me when I was like packing my caboodles in the car. So I went, we moved in together, and I don't think I ever had any relationship issues until then. We lived together for a very short time, trying to make a house a home and going shopping together, running out my credit cards, which is a whole other story. And then like he still worked in like upstate New York, but we lived in Lodi, which was like a 30-minute drive. And like soon, like as the time went, like it wasn't like ghosting, but it would be periods of ghosting. Like it wasn't full-blown ghosting, but he would just disappear. And the more he would disappear, like it built up like this anxiety in me. And I'd be like, oh my God. Like, and part of
the person coming back?
Like, is he coming back?
Is
he
dead?
Okay?
Like, are you dead on the side of the road?
You know, and it really, really like, I think that was like my beginning of my downfall of shitty relationships. But it really, really does something to a person, I think, when you're counting on this other person, especially depending on your age group, you're counting on this other person for something. In my case, it was like I lived with my parents my entire life. I never lived alone. Even when I lived in college, I still had a roommate. So I lived with them, and now I'm living with you, and now I can't find you, and I don't know what to do.
I didn't sign up for this.
Right.
I didn't sign up to be alone.
His mom would be like, you need to get a hobby. I'm like, you need to shut the fuck up. But, and then like, I don't know if it ever happened again, but we did have the conversation about the super ghoster, who I've already outed as Noble Casalupis, who comments on the podcast as Leon, and who everyone is now hating. And I've now come to my adult decision that I don't really want to associate it with him anymore. I don't know why I continue to after that, but it's irrelevant. But he invited me out for lunch, and then I went to go meet him for lunch, and then he came to the house while I was meeting him like 20 minutes from where we lived, packed up all his shit, and then like couldn't get him on the phone, couldn't get him via email. I was emailing. And the craziest part was, like, I tried breaking up with him the night before, but because he did it to me, I, like, felt some kind of, like...
But when you said try breaking up the night before, that means you were saying it to his face, basically.
Yeah.
Like, you were discussing this.
I was
you wasn't like trying to like lock the door before he got there, so you didn't have to answer. Like, you was doing it basically the right way.
I was like, this isn't working. This isn't healthy for us. We're fighting. We don't really like each other. Like, you need to figure out a different living situation. And like, he's out there like pretty much crying. I think he was drunk. No, we have to make this work. And like,
that turned into my ego is so fragile and so bruised that I have to be the one to
do this. And I have to do it like in the most damaging way. And I shouldn't have been as upset as I was. And I think it only took me like a couple days, but I just felt like so, like I was done so wrong that like I was more upset about it than I really should have been. But thank you.
And I think especially because you had went out of your way in more ways than one to help the person.
Right. Yeah.
And so that really makes you, I could imagine it would make you feel foolish.
Very.
You know, because it's like, I mean, that's how I would feel. Like I did this for you. I invited you in my home. I didn't have to, you know, I did it trying to help you. And this is the
thanks I get.
Right. Because knowing you would have been like, all right, you can have 2 weeks to find you somewhere, or 3 weeks. Like, you wouldn't have necessarily been like, get all your shit and get out. I don't care where you go. Like, I know you would have been like, all right, you could stay here for
my couch from Bob's is really comfortable.
Right. You can stay here for 2-3 weeks. I'm not just going to put you out on the street. I know you would have allowed that.
Right.
You would have set it up that way to where it's like, I'm not just kicking you out on the street. I know you've been staying here. Blah, blah, blah. Like, you can have 3 weeks, 30 days, whatever, find you a place. But like you said, it had to be, you know, somebody with such a fragile ego.
It's just mean. It's really mean. And like, it insecure, like, I like, you see like the anxiety in Issa, like where she starts like calling and she doesn't want to call,
looking at the Instagram,
she's texting and
looking for a message from him in the shower.
I think like back in the day, like we didn't have as much social media to go back and check to see if somebody was online and stuff, or we weren't as attached to it as people are now. I mean, even we are now, I guess. But like, yeah, like people will just like fall off the face of the earth and block you and change your phone number and stuff like that.
Without just you knowing, like without anything having happened.
Just to avoid a conversation.
Right. Like, I can see if you got into a big blowout fight and the person never calls you again, you'll know like it's from that blowout fight.
Right.
Like, but if somebody says to you, yo, what do we do? What do we call this? I really like you, and all these things is happening, and you're like, you know, yeah, I really like you too. Then all of a sudden the person never calls you. It can be very devastating, but it goes back to the idea of self-worth and knowing you are enough. And you got to be, I mean, that takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work on yourself. But you got to be able to say to yourself, I'm enough. I might not have been enough for that person, but I am enough. And go on. But, you know, Issa, all these things is running through her mind. Like, what did I say? Oh, I said that. Or sometimes she said something like, sometimes I kiss weird. Or she just had all these little small things that, and all of those things, you like, I can imagine anybody, naturally, any human being saying, like, kind of running through their mind, like, what did I do something? Did I say something? But after a day or two of that, you need to bounce back and be like, listen, whatever. I'm enough. Like, I'm a good person.
I think if it happened now, I'm a lot much stronger than I was then.
That's why we mentioned age. Yeah. Right. It'll be a different story. Yeah.
If the boyfriend upstairs disappeared, I'd be like, okay, fuck you. Thank you for wasting my time.
Right.
Fucking changing the locks. I might change my number.
Right. But the sad part is there's some people at 40 that they still haven't done enough work on themselves to be able, they still like, what did I do? Is it my hair? Is it my face? Is it my this? Was it my cooking? Was it, you know, like they're still going through this list of things.
And it's really them. I mean, I don't know if I listened. I know different shows do different things. Like you said, what is it? The Breakfast Club does something.
Curved. Like if you go, usually these are people that went out on dates.
Right.
But it was one couple in particular I remember. I think they had been dating for like 6, 7, 8 months. And what happened, I think he DM'd he saw a friend of hers. He didn't know it was her friend. It was somebody who happened to know her that he tried to get to go back to his house from the bar. And the person saw him on Facebook and knew that was her boyfriend and told her. Somebody she had went to high school with, and I think it was somebody he had never met, because I guess they wasn't that kind of friends.
Right.
But friends enough to be friends on social media, and she see pictures of them, and she recognized him, and she told her, and she just stopped calling him. And her thing was, if you're gonna sit up here and be trying to holler at women in the bar, then I don't need to call and say nothing.
Right.
But. And so he was like, I mean, you've been in.
I mean, in that case, it's simple. Like, this isn't this. I don't know. I get it and I don't. You know what I mean?
You approach somebody that I know. Like, I would just say it. You know what I mean? Like,
just
why
so you know.
You spending more energy avoiding phone calls and your doorbell ringing than just saying it. Like, you know, like, even if it's over the phone. Just say it, you know, like, and especially if somebody does you wrong.
Even a text message, fuck it. I mean,
right.
I know it's a little shitty,
if you've done me wrong or you betrayed me in some way, I don't owe you anything. Mm-hmm. So whether you think I owe it to you face to face or I owe it to you by voice or on the phone, I don't owe you anything. If it's a betrayal, if it's not a betrayal and you just feel like you're growing apart from somebody, I think you do owe it to sit down with them and say, listen, it's not working. You know, like, and.
I listened to one on, I think it's like Kiss FM, which is like a LA station, but it comes on Sirius. This guy went out with a girl, and the girl was like, I don't know why we didn't see each other again. I don't know what happened. So, I don't know. Ryan Seacrest calls these people, and his shtick is like so corny. He's like, you went on a date, and like he actually just asks them, I guess. I don't know. And they give them the information, and the guy was like, I went on a date with her. He's like, and she was fucking checking out the waiter and everyone else in there. He was like,
somebody said that on Curve too.
I'm done, yo. Like, you can't even pay attention to me on a date. You know,
what do I need to waste any more?
I'm not gonna go out with you again.
Right.
And and they asked her like, oh, were you checking out the waiter? She's like, well, he was fine. I'm like, bitch, then you don't deserve a second date.
Right.
Like,
then why are you surprised? Yeah. The thing with Curve too is that the person that called Curved is on the phone and they have to be quiet so the person can
I think they do the same thing, honestly
say without holding back. Right. So, and a lot of people, that was one of the things. It sounded like an older couple, but he was like, she like touched some girl's butt and was like, oh, is it real? She's like touching this guy's arm, like, oh, I like your tattoo. And the guy was like, you could tell he was an older man. I don't know how old they were, but you could tell they was older, like maybe in their late 40s.
Yeah, at any age, that shit's not cool.
Right. But, you know, he was just like, I don't play those games. Like, I don't got time for that. You know what I mean? Like, he wasn't forgiving about it, which he didn't have to be. But, you know, she was like, oh, we could have had a threesome. He was like, nah, I'm good. Like, you know, like, you can't assume because somebody's a man, they necessarily want to sleep with anything.
Right. We also put it out on Facebook, and Sam said it's disgusting and cowardly, which I totally agree with. And Bridget said it sucks when someone ghosts. When someone ghosts, I'd rather they stay ghost. Unlike Zoolander, I think she means the zoo guy. She's like, who texted me out of the blue again? I don't know how the fuck that happened, but he just keeps disappearing and then popping up. Hopefully, he had an eloquent apology this time, or maybe you didn't answer him. We'll have to catch up with Bridget and see what happened, but I agree with that. I think if you're gonna ghost, don't come back ever.
Right.
Put that person's number in block.
Right. And two, you know, everybody, I suggest work on yourself. Read what you got to read. Meditate, journal, do what you got to do so that these things don't be as damaging as they would be at 25. When you're 40 years old, you got to be able to say, listen, you know what? I don't need closure. That's closure enough. The fact that you're the type of person, and it doesn't mean you're a horrible person if you don't know how to have the conversation and you don't know how to communicate to the person that you don't want to be with them. That's millions of people. Right. It doesn't make you a horrible person, but it makes you a little shitty. Like that, you know, so you got to be able to say to yourself, you know what, if you're the kind of person that couldn't communicate enough to me to say, this isn't working, I want to move on, then you wasn't the person I needed to waste any more time being in a dating or relationship with. That's what you have to say to yourself. You know, if the person couldn't tell you, hey, listen, you know, I don't want to be with you, or this isn't working out, or whatever, the person, it just wasn't meant to be. That's what you have to be able to tell yourself, especially when you're hitting your late 30s, right? Mid to late 30s, you got to work on yourself enough to know that kind of stuff doesn't break you. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't work on yourself and you keep going like you've been going from when you was 22, you're going to be still experiencing a lot of heartbreak at 40 and 45 that, you know, maybe if you did a little reading, a little studying, a little working, you would, you know, you'd be able to handle it a little better. So your mind and your emotions is the same thing as going to the gym and exercising your body.
Get a journal. Sometimes they have like mindfulness books, like a book on mindfulness where you can do like little exercises, like writing positive, like I am statements every day, or, you know, writing the things that you're grateful for, stuff like that.
Like, just like you look at the statistics or you ask your doctor, like, is it likely this medicine will work? Statistics show that writing things down is therapeutic.
Right.
Like writing down your shames, your fears, your emotions, your wants, your desires is therapeutic. It's been proven over and over again. So just like you go to the gym, and this goes for men and women. You go to the gym, you work out your body, you got to work out your mind and spirit also. It's, you know, got to triage.
Make it happen, Captain.
Yeah. So that's our take on ghosting. Don't do it. Try your best not to. Throw the person a text if you have to. And don't get 40 and still be broke down by it. Cry a little. Write it in your journal. Keep it moving. Yeah.
Yep.
If you have a topic you want us to explore or have any questions you want to ask, you can write to us at bedlovebeyond@gmail.com or text us at 201-862-8BED, 201-862-8233. Thank you for listening to us on Podbean, iTunes, Pocket Cast, Stitcher, and Google Podcasts.
And Spotify.
Yep. Please rate, review, like, and subscribe to us on any of the devices that you listen to. And follow us, Bed Love Beyond, Instagram, Twitter, Periscope, YouTube. Follow Miss April Speaks, Instagram. I don't really tweet, but Instagram, Facebook.
She says that every week. I don't really tweet.
Yeah, and I got to do my WordPress. I've been writing a lot in my journal, but it's not going on the blog, so I have to get on that. So it'll be there, and I am gonna put my open letter up there that I read today. Might anger some folks. That's good. You need to be angry. Stop being indifferent. It's dangerous.
I love how April's unapologetic. That's awesome.
Martin Luther King said something about indifference. I can't think of the quote right now, but look it up. You'll see it. He was right.
She said, but look it up. You'll see
look up the quote, Martin Luther King's quote on indifference. It's the same thing as being the person who being indifferent to racism. His quote basically says being indifferent to racism is the same thing as being racist because you're not doing anything about it.
Right.
So he didn't use the word racism and racist, but you get the point. So anyway, that's that.
Peace.